Hello and welcome to another one. This is your host Dre, and I want to give some thoughts on the fallout from the first and maybe only presidential debate we'll have between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So, a lot of pundits have been speaking about this, and frankly, um, in a nutshell, I think Kamala narrowly won. However, I don't think the debate changes anything. Um, there are a few things that I notice in the debate that I do think, uh, if unaddressed, could have some possible impacts. Um, First and foremost, I would say this: like the debate itself was a complete and utter spectacle. Um, I think most people know by now that I am a former Democrat and I consider myself an independent at this point in time. And frankly, there were several times where Kamala Harris, if I closed my eyes and could just picture those words being said by another person, she sounded like George Bush. She sounded like Mitt Romney. She sounded like John McCain. And for me, that is precisely the problem with the modern Democratic Party. Um, I hate to say it, like I followed politics for a long time before I was even able to vote, and was always kind of animated by it. But there was a point in time where Obama said, like, if this was the '80s, I'd be a moderate Republican, and at that particular point in time, I couldn't quite articulate it. But as soon as he said it, it was like, yeah, that's it. You guys, you guys cosplay as Democrats, but you really are Republicans, and that came out with a lot of the rhetoric around war and around Israel. Um, so much so that I mean, it's fighting for fighting's sake. Is how it came across. And I honestly, people won't give any credit to it, but Trump actually came across as more moderate on the issues of international conflict. Even talking about how, he tamped down on uh, some of the aggression that came from certain factions like the Taliban and so on and so forth while he was in office. I do think that's kind of a this is the whole thing with Trump. It is a very mixed bag. And honestly, the biggest thing I would have pointed to if I was him was the fact that our allies in the Far East, such as South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, um, once he began to engage Kim Jong Un, there were no missiles tested or flown over or near these countries. Since this policy of non engagement to quote unquote impose prerequisites to people who don't really care to talk to you anyway, a lot of tests have resumed, and those tensions have ratcheted up, which has in turn caused allies such as Japan to remilitarize and aggressively so. Um, yeah, so the fact checking was annoying, and it was imbalanced, and it was one of those things where, edit Android here. Um, One thing real quick with the fact checking, I said it in my mind, didn't say it in the video. One of the reasons why the fact checking was annoying was because it was one sided, and a lot of people are saying, well, there's asymmetrical lying taking place. Kamala was telling the truth and Trump wasn't. Not true. Not true. Uh, who told the most lies? If you said Trump, I wouldn't fight you there. However, there were several lies told by Kamala on a lot of issues. One of which being like, for instance, gun ownership and excuse me, not gun ownership, but the question about gun policy and taking people's guns. Kamala has spoken several times and said that she would do a mandatory buyback program for assault weapons. It kind of gets a little fuzzy, but typically when a lot of politicians say that, they're meaning certain rifles like AR-15s, so on and so forth, which are semi-automatic rifles. So, yeah, uh, you have said that you want to take people's guns. I think a good question, and here's a place where the moderators failed. Good question would have been to, hey, what is an assault weapon? Is it a weapon of war, as in a rifle or machine gun that is a repeating firearm in its unmodified state? Or are we talking simply guns that look a particular way, such as those on the AR platform or the Kalashnikov platform? Um, you know, valid questions. But it was that, and there were several others throughout the debate. And once again, even with certain things Trump said, it was not entirely accurate in the way he said them. Like, for instance, the whole gangs in Aurora thing, the people eating pets thing. There have been reports of various things. Point blank period. In Aurora, are people paying their rent to gangs? No. Are there gangs there that have brought violence and crime? Yes. So there's a negative truth in a lot of things, from what I found over the past year that the media covers and tries to make light of. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully this is the last time I come to you. I'll hop back if there's anything else I forgot, but don't forget to hit that like button, share, subscribe, all the other little didgeridoos. Thank you. Frankly, how to put it? There were a few things that Trump said that, while not completely incorrect, needed further context. Like, for instance, like when he Kamala had, it was when Kamala made the comment about his people leaving his rallies early, that he went from somewhat composed and whatnot, and he just went full like, oh fuck this. It I believe the question after that, he responded, that's when you got the sound bite, like they're eating pets or something like that. Which is actually happening, according to some reports. I put it like this: the specific instance which he was citing, and which I think he said like they're eating the cats and dogs. It was actually, ironically, an American woman, who, from what I've read, killed and ate a cat in front of neighbors. Um, However, there have been instances of fauna, such as ducks and geese and things like that, being taken and consumed for food in certain areas in Ohio. So, pretty much aside from one detail, I would say that's like 90% true. And just because the city manager toes a particular line doesn't make it untrue. This is my biggest problem with fact checking. MSNBC, ABC, CBS, all of the alphabet boys are the ones who lied us into several wars and continue to lie and misrepresent positions to the American people. And honestly, they stand up for corporations that advertise on their network. I mean, you can't say you want a peaceful end to conflicts and whatnot, but all the voices that you bring on are war hawks, and you're running ads from GE, Honeywell, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman. I don't know too many civilians that have fighter jets. Um, but that should tell you something. That's who they're bought and paid for. And those same corporations are also the corporations that these politicians are bought and paid for. The most concerning thing about this whole election and its framing, actually second most concerning from a national perspective, is this word fascism being thrown around. If Donald Trump is fascist, what makes you think Democrats are not? Stop and think about this for a second. Because of Supreme Court rulings like Citizens United, money is speech. And these politicians, by and large, their campaigns are donated to the tunes of tens and hundreds of millions of dollars by the same corporations. They give 50 million to you, they give 50 million to the other guy. They're playing both sides. Smart thing to do from their perspective. So how could one candidate be fascist and the other be the champion of democracy in such a system? These are two wings of the same bird. I've in the past I've referred to them, to the duopoly, as the Republicrats. And think about it from a policy perspective. Kamala Harris sounded more right wing than Donald Trump at various points during the debate. She honestly did. In terms of once again, we talk about war, international conflict, and the use of the American military, and all these things, like it very much sounded. She sounded more neocons than the neocons. So that to me, I think is utterly. This is why people need to vote third party. At the end of the day, both of these parties are bought and paid for. And you are not going to achieve any significant changes by working within this duopoly structure. It's designed not to render any change. Frankly, with the percentage of people that do vote, it's a minority of Americans. And it's a minority, when you're talking about who actually wins, it's a minority of a minority. So I really truly believe that if most Americans would just take 1 to 2 hours, like most everybody has a smartphone, just do some Googling. Some of the things that you actually believe should be done, whether it's healthcare, whether school funding, whatever your issue is, I can guarantee you, both of these parties are wildly unpopular with the American public. And they've done a great job propagandizing Americans and convincing Americans that they're the only game in town and that third parties can't win. And I would like to remind each and everybody that does come across this video, Democrats and Republicans both started as third parties. And they're not the original parties of America. So all of this stuff is just a bunch of bull. And frankly, third parties don't have to outright win in order to win. the way, and just to kind of illustrate what I mean by that, um, most parties, independents, generally align more to one or the other. And if you had a significant block of voters who left those parties, either of those parties, or even came into the electorate voting third party, and they were able to get a nice chunk of vote share, and I'm not talking like something crazy, like 5 to 10% can, you talking like, yeah, I gotta address you. And especially when you're talking about close state races and things like that, like, yeah. And what will happen is one of two things. If those parties are smart, and we've seen this particular instance most recently with the Tea Party, the party closest aligned to them will begin to adopt various parts of their platform. And a lot of those major tenets, politicians will begin to run on them. And you'll have a separation for a bit. And then what will happen is the main party will then be forever changed because they will have adopted those tenets of the upstart party and be forever changed to where it won't, don't get me wrong, it won't be completely what that third party was and what they stood for, but it would be close enough that the ideals and the policy and the things that they're running on and championing will pretty much be a 80 to 90% alignment with what the mainstream party goer was. It's like in this case, the Tea Party and the Republicans. I mean, the average Republican now is pretty much a Tea Partier. From the early 2000s, like from like 2012. And finally, the thing that I find really interesting in the wake of this debate, has anybody else noticed that Donald Trump has said black more than Kamala Harris? He's actually made mention of black issues. And Kamala has this aversion to identifying herself. So the thing that they asked him about in the race and politics section was about how Kamala identified in his previous comments about it. And what I have noticed recently is two things. One, conservatives know who the fuck we are and are quite well aware. And by we, I mean black Americans who are, some would say FBA, some say ADOS. In terms of ADOS, American descendants of slaves. And I think that is I love that label. Because black is not simply a skin color. Because there are black Americans that, say, for instance, I have friends from the Caribbean. I have friends from the continent. And while those folks are great folks and great people, our lineages are not 100% the same. Our backgrounds are not 100% the same. Even though we may have some similar life experiences. And even though our differences are vibrant. And I'll be honest, I love black folks. And I love the different cultures and how we put different twists on different things. But at the end of the day, for instance, the plight and call for reparations, understandably, probably rings a lot differently to somebody like myself than it does somebody who immigrated here just a generation ago. It's interesting to me that a lot of liberals have tried to take this take on blackness And I'll put the video in the description. There was an interesting debate. Well, not debate, I shouldn't say. Interesting interview I came across a couple days ago in which this host asked, "What is blackness?" And it was with two black ladies. One was like this parenting organization, um, and then the other was a part of Trump's campaign.
There's been quite a bit of discussion around President Trump and Senator Vance questioning Vice President Kamala Harris's blackness, and knowing, I mean, how would you even define personally what it is to be black enough in America? I mean, isn't that really divisive rhetoric?
The funny thing is I hear more white people asking this question than black people, especially when it comes to media. One, I will say that, what he has said, especially during the NABJ conventions in that situation in particular, he didn't say anything that Black Twitter hasn't been saying for years, first of all. So, I mean, if your algorithm aligns that way, then you've seen these tweets and you've seen these things. And the point of it is basically to say that she is a flip-flopper and she goes back and forth on, her identity and policy. So the point is to say, like, if you can't stand firm in your identity, how can we trust what you say you're going to do, as the president of the United States? And
But the thing is, though, she went to a historic Black university. She joined a Black sorority. I mean, it's not like she hasn't.
but since when are those qualifications for Blackness? I know white people that have done the same thing. I think we need to stop trying to categorize ourselves and put ourselves in this box to say, like, okay, well, you did X, Y, Z, so that makes you Black enough. I don't think that those two things are like the qualifications, but I don't think there is a qualification. I don't think it matters what she is or what she isn't. I think it's more so about what she has done and what she can do.
And I felt like the ladies didn't. Their answers were okay, but they didn't really say it. And the host was trying, because they were like, "Hey, look, we're not the arbiters of blackness, and we're not in the business of defining blackness." And simply put, like the host was like, "What is black enough?" And my simple answer to that question is, if you are black, as in ADOS, I use that term synonymously with ADOS. If you have the blood of someone who's an American descendant of slaves, and you identify as such, you are black. You are ADOS. To me, that's in a discussion. This is not like being Latin. This is not a cultural distinction per se. It is one that is, frankly, lineage based. It is quite clear, and I see Kamala's lack of, and get me clear, I would have loved to have seen Kamala either in the interview and as well as in the debate actually come out and state for herself how she sees herself, how she identifies herself. I believe that is important because it gives you insight into the candidate. It helps give you insight into how they see things and different issues, which in Kamala's case, she's already said exactly how she views it. She ain't doing nothing for us. I'm not doing anything that just benefits black people. No. So although, and this is me speaking because I'll be real with you. The Greek ties in me, I feel like I've worked the inverse of a lot of people. A lot of people who are D9 and whatnot, I feel like they've see her ascension and they're like, okay, kid gloves, we not gonna question it. Like, and frankly, I'll be honest, I feel that her campaign thus far has been subpar. She's been wishy-washy and a flip-flopper on a lot of issues, and she hasn't yet to really truly articulate a clear vision for the country that makes any type of sense to me. Like, some of the stories she tells is very humanizing. They're very heartfelt. But I'm not really hearing how. I'm dissatisfied with the last 4 years of this country. I don't like Fuckboy Joe and his administration. How are you going to be any difference? What is the deviation from the mean if somebody is to pull the lever for you? What specifically is your vision to transform America and make a better America? I've heard very little substance. Yes, the $25,000, I don't even know what the hell it is at this point. It started as down payment assistance, and I don't think it's a tax credit. Okay, that's a step in the right direction, but I want tangibles. I want things that can be seen. I want plans. And I want a vision. And I'll be frank. Anytime I see somebody who is D9, like for instance, when I've interviewed people, I know the quality that our organizations put out. And there isn't a single member of A Phi A, aka Delta Sigma Theta, Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Beta Sigma that can look and say, you know what? I'm running for office and it's acceptable for me to not put out policy for damn near a month. Wow. Not asking, but damn near demanding people vote for me. We're better than that. I'm flat out gonna say we're better than that. And I feel like she makes us look bad. And I need to see a lot more of the lady that showed up in that debate, except, like I said, on a policy tip, versus this lady who's just having concerts and whatnot. Because I don't feel is representing us well. Because there's no substance there, and we are organizations of substance, and we know that high bar that we have for our members, and we are not upholding it by putting the kid gloves on and just pity patting with her. We need to hold her goddamn feet to the fire, because if there's anybody we should be able to get something from, it should be somebody that comes from one of our houses. And I say a goddamn shame on anybody who isn't of that ilk. So Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, all y'all fuck ass niggas. If you can't hold somebody, one of your own feet to the fire, then get the fuck out. You're useless. That ain't saying you be mean to the woman. That ain't saying you confrontational for nothing. But that is saying you ask some real questions. That is saying you get some real policy standpoints. I know there's got to be something that's important to you. Ask a goddamn question of substance. Damn. I digress. That tangent aside, back to the point about blackness. I really do feel there's an effort at play by the liberal left to conflate and honestly kind of confuse blackness and destroy what it means to be black. You know, in this country, it used to be identified as Negro. And, you know, the American Negro that term fell out of favor. And, you know, there were a couple terms before then. But we came to black. And then now it's African American, which I'm not really fond of. I do get the delineation of it. African American from black and whatnot. But like I said, I have friends who have immigrated here. You know, they're from the continent and they're Americans. So I don't feel that's the best label there. Um, I like it. Like I said, I like the term ADOS. I've started using that term myself in the last couple of years, interchangeably with black, but you know, normally use them in conjunction with each other. So normally say I'm a black ADOS, but by that, I'm gonna find that clip and I'm gonna put it in there. But by that whole question of blackness, it to me is similar to the question AOC posed, like what is black? And all of a sudden we don't know what black is. And frankly, I think that's gross and disgusting. To share a little bit about myself, my grandmother, excuse me, not my grandmother, my great grandmother was a lady by the name of Anna F. Hayward. And she basically was a few days short of being 100. And Anna F. Hayward is very, very interesting figure in my life. I didn't have the chance to get to know her as well as some of my older siblings and cousins. And most of what I've learned about her has been posthumously. You see, I am one lifetime separated from slaves and slavery through her. And just to kind of explain what I mean, she was born in the 1890s. Her parents were children during slavery. I believe my great grandfather, her father, was born in like 1858 or so, and her mother in like 1860 or 1861. So they were children during slavery. And she herself was born in the 1890s. She witnessed a lot of things, such as she was born before there was such thing as an airplane, before there was even a such thing as sliced bread. So, to me, when I hear such things, it is a disingenuous attempt to, one, weaponize the legacy of people like my great grandmother who fought to make a decent life for themselves, to guilt trip us into voting for some bull, but also at the same time a gross attempt to obfuscate and melt their identity down into some weird people of color soup that is non-distinct from other peoples of dark skin. And to that I say nah, I ain't with that. So I can say this, that when it comes down to this election, I don't know how I'm voting. I'm waiting for someone to show me something. And I'll be frank, the issues that are important to me, once again, are not on the ballot. So I'm probably going to end up voting third party. Like I say, the fraternal, or the Greek ties have me kind of holding out some hope that, Kamala will pivot and show me some of the type of things that I'm looking for, but I'm also under no illusion that such a thing will happen. I'm holding out hope. I'm gonna hold out hope till election day. Because at the same time too, where I feel like I'm harder on folks from the D9, I can also say that I do give a particular grace that until you get it right, brother, it's not like, hey, you effed up and I'm done with you forever. But rather, there's a grace there where it's like, hey, look, brother or sister, like, I'm gonna labor with you till you get it. In this case, this is whole country on at stake and whatnot. But I'm hoping against hope, I guess you could say, that on a lot of things, I hear a better candidate in her. Thank you for tuning in to the rantings and ravings of Dre D, aka Better You. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hope you have a wonderful weekend. Peace.